Hello everyone, in this session we will be discussing accounting for goods and services tax, that is GST. Now before starting this session I would like to inform you that GST, it is not included in your syllabus, but still as a commerce student you should have basic knowledge of what is GST and what kind of entries or what kind of treatment we do in accountancy regarding GST. So first let us see what is the meaning of GST. Now GST, full form of GST is goods and services tax. Now it is an indirect tax levied at prescribed rate on every supply of goods and services except for petroleum and alcohol for human consumption. Now it is an indirect tax. Indirect tax means it is indirectly taken from us by the government, and indirect tax, example of direct tax is income tax, which we directly pay to the government, but indirect tax is GST. Now we pay GST whenever we purchase any goods or services except for petroleum or alcohol for human consumption. Now in this definition they have given supply of goods and services. It is nothing but sale of goods and supply of services, means rendering of services, means either it can be sale of goods or either it can be rendering services to someone. Now it is a nationwide tax seeking to unify several indirect taxes and is based on the principle of one nation, one tax. That means for every state, for every union territory, this tax will be uniform. That is why it is working under the principle of one nation, one tax, meaning for one nation there will be one type of tax only. Now this GST Act was passed in Parliament on 24th March 2017, but officially it came into effect from 1st of July 2017. Now what is GST? How GST is formed? Now GST, earlier before GST there were lots of indirect taxes like excise duty, service tax, central sales tax and other taxes which were levied or which were enforced by center as well as state governments. But central level taxes, what the government has done is that at central level and at state level they have combined or they have merged all those indirect taxes into GST. Now when we talk about central level, that means what central government they did is that they combined some centrally levied indirect taxes, that is excise duty, service tax and central sales tax, into one tax, that is GST. Similar in state level also, octroi entry tax, purchase tax, entertainment tax, VAT, luxury tax, taxes on lottery, all those things are included or you can say merged into one tax known as GST. So now when we talk about GST rate structure, how much amount or how much percentage of tax we are supposed to pay, these are divided into 5 parts. First is essential items, which includes foods. We don't have to pay any GST. That means rate of GST is 0 in case of essential items. Then common use items, it has 5% of GST. Then standard rate is 12%. Then maximum goods and all services standard rate, means most of the goods plus some services that we render, they have 18% of GST. And all those luxury items and tobacco, they come under highest rate of GST, that is 28%. Now there are some notes, important notes that you have to understand under GST. Now GST is paid on purchase of goods and services and it is collected from customers on sale of goods and services. Now imagine yourself as a consumer. You went to a shop, you purchased something. At that time what you do is that you are paying GST to the shopkeeper. Okay, so usually we pay GST when we purchase goods or services. And suppose now imagine yourself as a shopkeeper or shop owner. While selling goods, what you do is that you are receiving or you are collecting GST from your customer. Okay, now GST paid, when we pay GST, it is termed as input GST. Now there is a there is an easy formula for remembering which is input GST and which is output GST. Now when we purchase goods, we goods comes to us, it is coming inside our house, or you can say inside your business when you purchase anything from your supplier. So it is coming inside, so at that time when you pay GST, you can say that as input GST, inside input. Okay, then when we pay GST, when we receive GST, suppose when you are selling goods to your customer, you are collecting GST, you are selling goods, that means good is going out from your business. So at that time you can easily remember that the GST that you have received from your customer is nothing but your output GST. Then some important notes. Usually GST paid on purchase of goods and services, that is input GST, is not a cost for the purchaser, but it is an asset. It is not considered as a cost, but it is an asset. However, in certain cases GST paid cannot be set off. Now these things you don't have to go in deep. Whatever is important, I will let you know. Now there are three types of GST. First one is central GST, or you can say CGST, collected by central government. The next is state GST or SGST, or Union Territory GST, UTGST. Both of these taxes are levied on intra-state sales within the same state. Means if you are purchasing good from, let's take example, your seller is in Imphal and the buyer is in Ukhrul, that means the sale is taking place within the same state. In that case we will say that it is an intra-state sales. Okay, so in here one example is given. The dealer of Rajasthan sell goods to a dealer or consumer in Rajasthan worth rupees 50,000. Now suppose those goods that the seller or the dealer has sold comes under the GST rate of 12%. In this case, this rate will comprise of CGST, means half, that is 6% of that GST will be taken by central government, and half, that is remaining 6%, will be taken by the state government. Now the only thing that you have to remember in this point is that if the sale is intra-state sales, that means the sale is taking place within a same state, then in that case the GST rate will be divided into two equal parts. One part will be taken by central government and another half part will be taken by the state government. Then next is integrated GST or IGST. It is levied on interstate sales, that is sale of goods and services outside the state. Means supplier is in one state and the purchaser is in another state. Now for example, a dealer of Rajasthan sell goods to a dealer in Madhya Pradesh worth rupees 50,000. Now in that case, suppose the good or the rate applicable is 12%, that in such a case the seller will charge 6,000 as IGST, that is 12% of this 50,000 is 6,000, so that whole amount will be taken by central government. At that time it will not be divided into central government and state government. So important point that you have to remember under this topic is that if the sale is intra-state sales, that is if the sale takes place within the same state, then the GST amount will be divided into two equal parts. One part will be for central government and one part will be for state government. But if the sale is taking place in two different states, means if the seller is in one state and the buyer is in another state, then at that time whole amount of GST, that is 12, in this example it's given 12%, in that case whole amount of GST will be taken by the central government, and that is known as integrated, means combined all together. Okay, then next note that you have to remember is that in some question usually they will not ask any question, okay, but still for your general knowledge, if the GST rate is 12%, if in question if they don't give CGST or SGST, only IGST or GST rate like 12% is given, then surely you have to first see whether the sale is intrastate or interstate. If it is interstate, then whole 12% will be IGST, but if it is intrastate, then you have to divide this 12% into two equal parts. One part will be for CGST, that is 6%, and another 6% will be for SGST. if the GST rate is 18%, sorry, then CGST will be 9% and SGST will be 9%. So that you have to understand in this in GST. Okay, suppose if the GST rate is 28%, then in that case, if the sale is intra-state, then 14% will be for CGST and 14% will be for SGST. Okay, so these were the basic of GST, and in our next session we will be seeing some practical example or illustration of GST, and we will wind up this short chapter in our next session, and from next session after that we will start cash book. Okay, so for this session we will wind up here. Thank you.